Hello, everyone. Welcome to Word Funk. I am Leon Thomas. I am joined by Austin Yorsky, Johnny Maloney, and whatever viruses are capering around inside Johnny.
It's true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my infections have now become a permanent co-host.
Yep. That's just the way it is. We're going to have to get through it.
The good news is that we share political opinions. So it's, my viruses are not going to jump in suddenly and defend the goings on of the man.
Yeah, God, I'm so thankful that we're not going to get any other perspectives on the world. That would totally destroy our echo chamber that we've erected for ourselves. So,
Sure.
I don't mind being an echo chamber, Austin. Like this is the thing, is that like as long as we admit to ourselves that we're not like preaching the truth and getting the news out there, there's nothing wrong with that. You can make something for a specific audience just as long as you're not masquerading as being like fair and balanced.
No, we're not journalists. I want that to be clear.
I mean, I used to be, but anyway, go on.
That's fine. But this show is just whatever. I actually do have something political to say in the beginning, and I would like both of your opinions, but especially Austin.
Oh no,
because Austin, as my lawyer,
that's how this works.
Yep. Is it sedition?
Oh, fuck, I love this question.
If I tell the president to eat shit?
That's a good question. I would say ordinarily no. You're entitled to that speech, and it is not. It doesn't violate any other restrictions on free speech, like place and time and stuff. I haven't taken con law 2, so maybe I'm missing some nuances.
It's also that's not really conspiratorial, is it?
But the problem is it's 2017, boys. Who knows what? I mean, the rules just don't matter anymore, huh?
Well, I've been reading about sedition as it relates to the First Amendment, and apparently, like one of the reasons why people talk about sedition being a loophole that says the First Amendment does not apply is that a guy during World War I sent out leaflets that said, "Hey, don't go to war if you're drafted. Just don't do that." And he was arrested for this, and he was found guilty of this, and that it basically changed how people view the First Amendment. And to me, that's like, I don't see why he shouldn't be able to say that. They decided it represented a clear and present danger, and if you just say that, then it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like this particular president would stretch that as well and say, you know what, this Leon guy told me to eat shit, and I feel like if I do, it would be bad, and therefore I find this a clear and present danger, so lock him up.
I think you might be okay on the grounds that what the person in World War I was advocating for was a dismantling of a government system. In that, insofar as that, like, you get drafted, you go to war. This is like the social contract, right? Everybody, like, that's how it should work. That's how the government has decided the law goes. You might be in trouble if, like, the Sixth Amendment was the president should probably not eat a plate of shit.
I know we're going to get at least one comment about this. The court case you're talking about, Leon, is Schenck versus United States. And the thing involved in that, I want to say that it was a specific act was repealed later. So, I mean, during war, especially World War, we play a little fast and loose with the rules because...
Austin, can you just take a small time out here to tell me what's different between a world war and a regular war?
Also,
perception.
Maybe perception, but also, like, we're in a forever war. We're never not at war.
I understand that. That's a practical matter, of course, but you have to realize that that is not how America views itself, and not how it wants to view itself. As far as the government and public perception is concerned, that's fair. We are bringing freedom to everyone else.
Yeah,
it's only
America.
more when-
America wakes up in the morning and it looks itself in the mirror and says, "It's okay. You're not at war. You're doing the right thing."
I thought this was. I was actually really excited for this episode because I was like, this one's gonna be no politics, all video games and movies and stuff. We get back to that good stuff. We're gonna send out good vibes. And
Who do you
just
think
immediately-
you are?
I don't know. No, I was being naive. You're right. That's on me. Although I said this before, most of my law classes I'm taking this semester are really boring or like severely fucked up. Like I don't think anyone wants to hear like some of the cases are just really fucking heinous, and I think would probably be unlistenable.
You're getting the graphic stuff this semester, aren't you?
Yeah, it's very bad evidence in animal law. But next semester is probably going to be more interesting, more talkable about. That was nothing. Easier to use as a platform for discussion, including constitutional law too, where I will to get into First Amendment issues. So I will be able to talk more specifically about that stuff when I have a better grasp of it. My understanding is the First Amendment, as we've discussed before, is about you and the government, not about you and private companies. I feel like our listeners know that at this point, but also there's all kinds of restrictions. I think the most famous one is most people know like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater because that's just not an appropriate use of your speech. And like the government recognizes all kinds of exceptions to that. So long story short, Leon, on paper, you should be able to tell the president to eat shit. In the current regime, who knows how anything shakes out. The world is a howling maelstrom of evil. So...
Yeah.
Don't worry, Leon. I'm Canadian. I will tell him in your stead to eat shit.
Yeah. BTW.
Let me just wrap up my Twitter here. I'll leave your name out of it.
Thanks. The fire in a crowded theater was actually part of the case that we're talking about. It was cited by the Supreme Court. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., which is a great name.
Yeah.
He said that as part of his opinion on this particular case that we were talking about, which is funny.
Oliver Wendell Holmes is probably my second favorite justice name after Learned Hand, which is just chef's kiss.
Is that real?
Yes, absolutely. He's famous as fuck.
That sounds like something is going to bestow justice upon me.
Yeah. He sounds like a Phoenix Wright character.
Okay. I would hate to look him up and find out he was actually awful. I'm not going to.
Let's have this. All right. Let's not look too deeply into this wellspring gift here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have other things I could talk about, but I feel like we can move on to some sillier topics if you want. If either of you have something that's just fun.
Oh God, please! I mean, we should because we're gonna get back to the depressing stuff eventually. Of course, I've skimmed the questions, so that's inevitable. And also, just this show is trending in that direction, so we take the bright spots when we can get them.
Yeah, I for myself, I'm sorry that we're not delightful, impish, bright spots in your day as we used to be. But I mean, as you can clearly see, the world is doing terrible things to me.
It's literally killing Johnny.
It is literally killing me. I am dying. Many years ago, we made a joke on the Blistered Thumbs podcast about how my life is really actually just the slowest snuff film that's ever been made. This is like the beginning of Act 3.
Yeah. You're at your lowest. Everything's falling around you, and you're gonna have like your final wind when you go after you get some kind of victory in this world, but then you die tragically, and the credits roll, and everyone's very sad.
Yeah. Over a long period of time. The death scene, I'm hoping, is probably going to be about 2 years.
Yeah, that's that Cannes shit. They love it.
Yeah. Scored by Philip Glass. I'm trying to get him, but he's a little cagey.
I'm going to talk about a thing if you guys don't talk about a thing. Because I have a thing.
Good.
I'm excited. Are you
Talk
excited?
About things.
Do it.
We've been talking a lot about Stephen King recently. I feel like I'm just going to chase that dragon for a while because we are in some kind of weird King resurgence, especially in terms of adaptation. Last week, I talked about Gerald's Game, and also, of course, It and the Dark Tower came out in theaters this year. Also, there's a new Netflix original, which I watched, called 1922. And I stumbled upon the adaptation of Cell with Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, which came out, I think, last year, and I watched that as well. So I'm just up to my nips in King over here, boys, and I have so many thoughts. Have either of you seen Cell or 1922?
No, but you said John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson, and I was immediately reminded of 1401. Is that what it was called?
Oh, 1408.
1408, yeah.
Yeah, same team. Stephen King adaptation, haunted hotel room.
Yeah, right?
Pretty decent.
It was good.
Fine.
I really enjoyed that movie. But, I mean, that aside, I have not seen Cell. Tell me of its gifts.
Not to be confused with the Jennifer Lopez movie Cell.
Which...
or might have been The Cell.
The Cell, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not Tarsem's best.
A very visually interesting film. Everything else, just smelly garbage.
Yeah,
All right.
but, I mean, if you're, just watch The Fall instead.
Yeah. Obviously.
Idiots.
Just watch The
Come
Fall.
on,
It's very
guys.
good.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Okay, so...
That's a new noise. I don't think I've ever made that noise before.
Cell is a book by Stephen King about a cell phone signal like everyone in the world gets simultaneously.
Oh, okay. I know the movie you're talking about. I was thinking something else.
Okay, the cell phone signal turns everyone into zombies. So it's essentially Stephen King's zombie book. The cell phone thing is kind of incidental. It's basically like a weird premise. He does a lot of that, like what if laundry machines were haunted? What if cars were evil? It's just like the high concept thing he does a lot. So this is what if cell phones made you zombies? And the book is fine. It's not one of my favorite ones. It's perfectly serviceable. It has, a couple cool scenes, and the most of it is forgettable. The movie is, I hope someday it finds the kind of Plan 9 from Outer Space, The Room audience.
Really?
It's bad, but very, very fun. Samuel L. Jackson is doing the Lord's work in this movie. He plays a gay train conductor, and he is acting more than most people do in like big budget Hollywood flicks, and he's schlepping this direct to video, or like I think maybe direct to streaming nonsense zombie movie.
No,
and
it was in theaters for about 15 minutes.
God,
they literally stopped the first screening 15 minutes in and pulled it and put it on DVD and Blu-ray.
I mean, I see why. I'm on the Wikipedia page now. It says the film was released on June 10th, 2016 to video on demand prior to limited releases in July 8th. Yeah, so they knew it was bad, and it is. It's very bad in a bunch of boring ways, but also in a bunch of interesting ways. Like the boring ones are like the special effects are bad. There's weird explosions that look like, the stuff that comes with editing programs you get for Apple products. There's a bunch of like weird bad blood spurts, like whatever. Like that's not what makes this movie cool. The things that I like about it are the performances that aren't John Cusack, who does not try. Actually, it's kind of charming. The way he basically looks like he's half awake and drunk for a lot of it. He's melting on screen. It's almost like Nick Cage level, just like, I don't care, I just gotta buy another Graves plot in New Orleans. Like, he's just... I don't know. John Cusack is going through some stuff, I think. What happened to him? Side note, you guys can chime in. What's up with John Cusack?
He was big for a while, and then he's not, just like every other actor.
I think he's doing what he loves.
Okay, I'm looking through his filmography. I'm trying to figure out the last like substantial thing he was in.
I know that there was some noise about him doing that Edgar Allan Poe movie, The Raven.
Yeah, but that bombed. I mean, I'm looking at this. He was in Chirac, which was the kind of maligned, what's the director's name? Spike Lee. Yeah, Spike Lee movie. It looks like the farthest I can go back and find one that I would recognize as like a decent movie is 1408 in 2007, the Stephen King adaptation. So, I don't know. John Cusack brings his, B+ game for Stephen King and no one else these days.
I see him in a lot of like little weird indie movies and stuff like that. I
hope he's okay.
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's doing all right.
So there's a lot to like about.
He was in Maps to the Stars, which
yes.
That's Cronenberg, right?
Yeah, that is Cronenberg's most recent film from like 3 years ago.
I haven't seen it, but I've been
might be
meaning
his
to.
last.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Okay, so I do have a lot to say about this movie, but I want to keep it short because you guys don't really have a lot of ingress into this conversation. It's a schlocky, weird, bad zombie movie. The thing that I hope someday it's famous for is there's a scene where there's a bunch of zombies sleeping on a soccer field, and they use a machine that's for like watering football fields to spray gasoline on them and set them on fire, and everything about it is bad and wrong. Like the CGI field of zombies looks like they just cut and pasted a JPEG over it. The shots of them driving the car are like clearly them sitting in a like a cabo thing in front of a green screen. They're just both fucking pounding. I think it's like some kind of like supposed to be fancy alcohol, but they actually look really drunk, like in the like actually there, like they're not acting. And the music is, I think in the book it was I want to say Baby Elephant Walk was the song that Stephen King said was in this, like in this actual book was what was playing, but in the movie it's the fucking Russian Trololol song. Are you guys aware of that meme?
Yeah.
Vaguely.
It's I don't know why. I don't know who made that choice, but they're killing like 100 zombies, and in the background it's just and it's in universe. It's not like the soundtrack. It's playing in and then the fucking thing explodes, and it looks so bad. And it's like the Birdemic or whatever. Yeah, Birdemic is the name of that film. It's like a Birdemic level thing, but Samuel L. Jackson is there, and I was just. Can I
just take a quick aside and give Stephen King some massive props for having the balls to write that movie or like write that book in the first place? Because it seems to me that most people would look at that and be like, "Oh, cell phones making zombies," and they'd get as much as of like an opinionated "millennials are so horrible" think piece out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Stephen King actually sat down and was like, "No, hold my beer, watch this."
Yeah, there's actually a joke in the biographical information on the book cover where it says like Stephen King is a writer from Maine. He lives with his wife and 2 dogs. He does not own a cell phone. It's kind of tongue in cheek like that. They actually in the movie, because it came out like 10 years after the book, they have to like basically explain in the universe like, hey, doesn't everyone just text? Like, no one actually calls anymore, because the whole plot is, like, when you call, you, like, put it up to your ear, and the signal turns you into a zombie. So they have to, like, actually acknowledge in-universe that it's weird that it works, and it's very bad and also very good. And the whole thing is goofy and nonsense. The science is, like, it might as well just be kryptonite or something. And then they changed the end, which is, part of me thinks that it was a kind of cynical attempt to get the infamy of The Mist, the Stephen King adaptation, which I contend has the best ending of any film ever. It's very fucking memorable, and they kind of take it in that direction instead of the book's ending, which is the exact opposite. This is like a weird cryptic way to talk about this. Anyway, they changed the ending of the book, and I'm not sure if I liked it, although it was kind of funny. So
you're talking about the Tom Jane movie, right?
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Tom Jane, he's also a thing. Well, no, it's relevant. Hold on, I'm working around, like I'm scatterbrained today. That was trying to remember. I'm clicking on stuff. Yeah, so Thomas Jane, we've talked about on this show before. He is the star of The Mist, the other Stephen King adaptation we were just talking about. He was in The Expanse, a show Johnny and I like a lot, and Leon does not. And he is also the lead in the other Stephen King movie I watched, 1922. Was that an intentional transition, Johnny, that you fed me, or was that just a really weird coincidence? Let's
just go with it.
Okay. So this is a Netflix original. At least in North America, I assume everywhere. But I had no idea it was coming out. I literally just turned it on Netflix, and I was like, I don't know, probably gonna watch Little Witch Academia or something. And I was like, wait, what the? Thomas Jane's in another Stephen King thing? Hell yes, and I'm into it. 1922 is not one of his well-known stories. It's actually a short story from a collection, a really recent one. So it has essentially no reputation that I'm aware of.
But that's a power coupling right there. Tom Jane and Stephen King. That's
it's only happened once before, and it was awesome. So, I mean, do you guys like The Mist? First of all, I talk about the ending a lot.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. We're all on the same page. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but I do enjoy that film a lot. 1922 is a story about a farmer, played by Thomas Jane, who hates his wife, and his wife hates him, but she owns most of his land, and so they come into conflict, and then there's a couple spooky things that happen, and then it's over. Like, that's the entire story. It's a short story, like, literally, it's like from a collection. There's very few, like, events in the plot. A lot of it is just Thomas Jane's accent, because it takes place in, I believe, like, North Dakota, South. It's somewhere in, like, the American Northwest. Let me just double check. Does it say on the Wikipedia page? No. Dang. Here, no, Nebraska. It's in Nebraska. So there's, like, nobody for miles. It's kind of just them alone on the spooky farm, and it's just Thomas Jane be like, you know, damn city folk, they don't respect the land. I like my corn. You better listen to me, woman, or I'm gonna do some country shit. Also, Stephen King is not fond of rural Christians. I don't know if you've received that message over the 50 years of his career. I'm Thomas Jane.
Austin, can I sponsor you to speak in that accent for the rest of this episode?
Guys, watch this movie. It's I actually had to look it up. I had to, like, where the fuck is Thomas Jane from? Because I can't imagine how he came by what he thinks people from Nebraska sound like. But he's from Maryland, for the record.
Oh, okay. So yeah. See, so he just he has, like, a very plain sounding voice.
He started with nothing. He was the default slider in the fucking Bethesda game. He started with nothing, and he built Nebraska on top of it, and I respect that. It's hard to talk about 1922 plot-wise because the only things that happen, I guess, are spoilers. But I would recommend it because, as we've discussed with Stephen King, I would say there is a strong feminist undercurrent throughout a lot of his work, and this is no exception. And it's very much a story about how, like, men want what they want, and if you get in their way, they're monstrous about it often, and they feel entitled to stuff. And it's not really subtle. He has this whole conversation. He's like, a man's only worth is his land and his son. Like, the only thing that matters in this world is passing on my patriarchal wealth. And if anybody gets in my way, well, I'm going to do some spooky Stephen King shit. Like,
okay, now I really want to see this movie.
I saw it on Netflix. I mean, I have been convalescing pretty much for the past 2 weeks. Whenever I get the chance to do nothing, I wrap myself up in blankets and I lie down. I get horizontal. I do the Johnny. But I saw it and I was like, oh, that's you and me. There was a talk.
Yeah. It's not as good as Gerald's Game, the other recent Netflix Stephen King thing, which I think had more subtle performances and way better effects. There's a couple of effect shots in 1922, and they're nothing special. They're okay. And it's just, I think those two are very comparable. They deal with a lot of the same themes. There's no sexual assault in 1922, but there is domestic violence. Yeah, comparable, good, not great, and not subtle either. So if you're into, like, that, with the things he's putting down, like, I don't know, I've read, goodness gracious, at least 50, probably like 70 Stephen King books at this point. Like, he's written just more than he has to be more than one person, right? Like, he's several people in one tall jacket. There's no other explanation for how he writes so much. And I also don't know how we got to a universe in which people started adapting his stuff in earnest again, because we went through a dry period, right? Like, I don't know. He's such an interesting figure just in art. Like, I think people are going to look back and be like, remember that guy who wrote fucking everything in, like, every genre? I don't know.
I made a joke a couple of weeks ago that future historians are going to refer to this as the dubstep age, but it may in fact be the Stephen King age.
Yeah. It's just really impressive. Like, he's written, obviously, like, a ton of horror classics, but he's also written a bunch of, like, prison stuff that really holds up. And then he's just written perfectly normal, just, like, fiction-ass fiction.
His work ethic is spectacular. Like, if you're going to imitate any writer, I think that you should probably imitate Stephen King. Because all he does is right.
Yeah,
he's one of the only modern novelists I can think of that him and Cormac McCarthy, because Cormac McCarthy just fucking writes. You know, it's like I blink and he's got a new book or a new collection of short stories and things like that. And like both of those, and that is the most important thing that you can do as a writer is write. And like that sounds like such a stupid like non-thing to say, but I know so many people who get so hung up on their own creativity that they don't. I mean, like NaNoWriMo is coming up, right?
I've never heard anybody say that out loud before. Huh.
Well, there we go. So yeah, November's coming up, and it's like it's this thing where it's like encouraging people to just sit down and write because they don't. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, in his book on writing, he talks about his whole thing is you have to have basically a rigid schedule that you have to stick to. And his is like he gets up every morning, has tea, writes for 4 or 5 hours, and then he's allowed to do the rest of his day. Like he's just it's a discipline thing, and like he ends up throwing out like I don't know if he says a percent, but he ends up throwing out like most of it because it's not salvageable. But the important thing is a lot of it is, and over a lifetime. Like he doesn't remember writing Cujo. Well, also he was on a lot of drugs at the time, but it was just like you just turn and it's like, oh yeah, I wrote 2 books this year, and it's like that's what happens when you write every day.
Yeah, I mean, like creativity. I don't know how we managed to mythologize creativity into this thing where it's sort of like, oh yeah, you know, it only happens when the stars align, and no, it's fucking hard work. You know,
it's literally labor.
Yeah, no, and like Austin, I think you probably appreciate this more than anybody else now at this point in time writing Dice Funk, is that it's like, yeah, you have a deadline. Like weekly, you have to have a show. You've got to have like 90 minutes of material to present, and like phoning it in is not an option because it's your life.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, obviously we all have jobs you have to get up, and all of them are very difficult, and we've talked about that before, like, and what Leon does isn't that much different, but for Dice Funk, I definitely feel like my audience would be totally understanding if we, like, took a week off, or had a short episode, and it's just like, I have made this deal with myself, that's not the kind of creator I want to be. I need a full episode every week, hell or high water. I've never missed one. It's very important to me for that to be the case. And it's actually been, I think, really good for the quality because it just means, like, I'm always on my A game. And we've talked before about how, like, difficult it is to do, like, live comedy, you know, like 5 days a week or whatever, or, like, even once a week for, like, SNL or something. And it's, like, just being on is really difficult. But the more you do something, the better you're good at it. Yeah. And, like, eventually it starts being, like, muscle memory. And it really is important to get yourself out of the headspace of, like, I can only write when I'm in the perfect mood and there's no distractions and the muse has come down and softly touched me with her inspiration.
Yeah. Both of you have really, really great creative work ethic. Like I really respect the way that you put out your content. Like Leon, you are always on time. Yep. Your episodes come out with alarming regularity. And Austin,
although I have changed the day I'm doing them each week to Thursday instead of Tuesday, but besides that, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, Austin, you know, your dedication to your audience and the respect that you have for them through your work is visible. It's apparent, and I love that. Both of you are phenomenal about it.
Thanks.
I don't really consider myself a content creator, you know, even though I do my own little things. I write my own poetry, and I've contributed to some stuff, but it's like not being able to show people the actual labor, the work that goes into creating the things that they love to see, their TV shows, their podcasts, their YouTube shows and things like that. Like not having that value being apparent to them is something that bothers me. you know, like we've talked about like piracy culture and things like that, and how people oftentimes feel like entitled to content and things like that. Oh, just, you know, do it for exposure or whatever, or something like that.
Sorry, I just have like a violent reaction to that word. Go
No,
ahead,
but
go
it's like it's so funny how, like, yeah, the best advice about creating things is you've got to knuckle down and do it. It has to be work. Like, it can't just be something that just spouts sort of involuntarily from the end of your pen or something like that. Like, you know, showing and expressing the labor that goes behind the important and valuable things that people get in culture is a super, super important thing for me. Like, I love being able to say, oh, hey, yeah, you know, like your favorite authors, your favorite TV shows, that's fucking work. And these people deserve to be paid for it.
I try to have a good work ethic, but also if I skipped a week, it would just be financially devastating.
So I mean, that is
quite a motivator. There is that motivator.
But that still contributes to the attitude of it being work. It's still work.
Sure.
I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, you can't just be like, I'm gonna take this week off because I got a squeaky voice.
Oh, I always have a bad voice, but I still have to do it. I just always have to do it.
You've got the nicest voice of the three of us, and I'm not just saying that because I sound like somebody rubbing my actual voice against, like, I don't know, a fan belt and an engine that's looked like it's seen some wear.
I looked up a list of Stephen King adaptations while we've been talking, just as curious about the pattern. And yeah, there was a pretty serious drought, like maybe one movie every 2 or 3 years for a while there before we got into the modern King Renaissance. But
yeah, the aughts were that was a Stephen King lack.
It was from like 2008 to like 2016. There was like one movie every other year. There's a good chunk in the middle of the aughts there. But the thing that I'm curious about is they made an adaptation of Hearts in Atlantis. Has anyone seen that? That can't be good.
I know it exists. Anthony,
is that a thing?
Anthony Hopkins is in it.
Yeah.
Right?
So Hearts in Atlantis is the name of a collection of a couple larger stories, novellas essentially, that tie into the Dark Tower universe.
Say that word again.
Which one?
You guys.
What'd I do?
No, it's fine.
Oh no, now I'm gonna obsess about it. Novellas?
Some people say I say novella, and some people, but it's whatever.
It's novella now. Sorry, it's Spanish.
I really don't care. That was just like that was a cute moment. I liked that.
Let's not GIF right now.
I'm reading the Wikipedia synopsis. It's not an adaptation of the story Hearts in Atlantis. It's an adaptation of Low Men in Yellow Coats, which is a different story from Hearts in Atlantis.
But it's called Hearts in Atlantis?
Yeah, okay, so in the book Hearts in Atlantis, there's a story called Hearts in Atlantis from which the book is named. That is about people playing the card game Hearts during Vietnam.
Right.
And like Atlantis is a metaphor. And in that book Hearts in Atlantis, there's a different story called Low Men in Yellow Coats about people who are agents of the Crimson King, who is the villain from the Dark Tower, chasing somebody. And apparently that's what the film Hearts in Atlantis is an adaptation of. Anthony Hopkins is the man who's being chased by the yellow coat people. I don't know. I didn't realize this film existed. It seems like a wild thing to even try to adapt. I don't know. It's just weird.
It sounds to me like a man in a tie decided that the title of the movie should reflect the title of the book.
Yeah, I mean, it is a better name for a film than Low Men in Yellow Coats. Also, Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 out of 4. Damn.
All right.
Although he did say video games are not art. In the same review, weirdly enough. Anyway.
Apropos of nothing. I just want to say.
Yeah, he just parting shot. All right, I'm done talking about Stephen King and creativity for the moment. If anybody else wants to jump in with a topic.
I had a date this week.
Did you use the Toblerone index as we've discussed?
I'm afraid I did not.
Dang.
Okay.
No, it was, but it went better. It went better than my last date.
Nice.
It was it was more of a beta date than an alpha date, if you know what I mean. It was nice.
Okay.
She's a reporter, which I thought was like an antiquated term. I didn't think that people I thought people were journalists these days. But yeah, she's a reporter. Mm-hmm. And so that was a thing. And I didn't feel like a trash human after I left. Yeah. I was like, "Oh my god, my feelings are still intact, and I'm not a horrible person." So that was nice. But I'm still tremendously sick. So who knows? Maybe my brain is not working properly.
Well, it's probably one of those things you what is that? What's that term? Aversion therapy? Is that the word? Is that what I'm trying to think of? The thing where if you keep doing it, it stops being bad.
After my dad died and Mud dumped me. Yeah. I did this thing like about a year later where I was like, I need to prove to myself that I can do this. So I forced myself to like go out on dates and things like that and meet people. And that was like a huge mistake. That was I was not ready to be around people. And I did some things that I really regret actually in my life now. Like I look back on that period of time and go, wow, like I was not ready to play in another person's feelings. That was not a good idea. So I've been a little worried that I'm doing that again, that I'm trying to prove to myself. I'm trying to prove something to myself. So there's been a couple of conflicting emotions about this concept, about me like putting myself out there and being available to people and things like that. But I was encouraged. I was encouraged by my experience on Monday. So that's good. I'm doing okay, people. Yay. Your good boy Johnny's gonna be all right. So yeah, that was a thing.
Great. I have another thing to talk about. Okay, so this requires kind of a lead up. So just some brief history about stuff in the news. Basically, there's a lot of sexual harassment and abuse allegations that have come up like very rapidly because one guy was super gross and was caught, and then everyone was like, maybe we can actually not be afraid and speak out. And then all of a sudden, fortunately, a lot of people are being exposed for, being awful and good. Like, this stuff should come to light. And I think that's very brave that people are sharing their stories. And it usually hits a lot of, like, big name celebrities and producers and Hollywood types that you might have heard of, like, household names. And it also, today, it hit, like, someone in the community that I am in, the YouTube community, because a YouTube personality named Adam Blumpier, who used to work for What Culture and was starting a new channel and did a lot of, like, wrestling videos that I liked, a lot of allegations came out about him and is sort of, like, he's basically a sexual predator. And he admitted it too. Like, he was caught, so he had to, I guess, to try to save face and apologize.
What do you mean? What do you mean caught?
Basically, a digital, trail. Basically, like people text. Nothing's secret anymore if you're doing it online.
Yeah. It's just we like I know you're dancing around Harvey Weinstein here in your lead up and things like that. And the thing about I'm just curious about the terminology, because Harvey Weinstein had been caught doing it for a long time. It wasn't like nobody had publicized it in
and there was a recording that certainly helped.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to know, like, when you say that this guy was caught. Yeah.
So Adam Blumpier was caught. I think earlier. Well, if it wasn't earlier today, news was swirling about it on wrestling Twitter all day, and people have rightly repudiated this person. And obviously, like, the real victims are the women. So I want that to be clear. But I also started thinking about his coworkers and friends who left what culture with him to join him on this new endeavor. And I was wondering, like, how they are going to react and how they're going to feel about it. And I just want to say, like, in all seriousness to you guys, thank you for not being gross. Thank you for being, like, decent guys so that I never have to make a public statement denouncing either of you. Like, I never want to wake up in the morning and, like, have my timeline blow up about something awful that, like, a friend of mine had done, and I have to, like, react to it.
I mean, we just get out in front of it all. I'm pretty open about what a shitbag I've been. Like... I mean, the skeletons are out of the closet. They're sitting on my lap. I'm petting them. It's getting a little weird, but we've all kind of gotten used to it.
All my damage is on display, pretty much. I'm not, I'm not dressing anything up.
Right. I'm saying, like, there hasn't been any, like, say, recent scandals among friends of mine, and I really genuinely appreciate that.
Man, I ain't got no time to do scandalous shit. Where do people even find the hours?
Yeah, I don't have the energy for it.
I can't. I'm so tired.
I just don't. Given the opportunity to inappropriately touch somebody's butt, I'm like, but I'd have to do something.
No, I mean, I made this joke like 2 weeks ago, but I literally don't even have time for, like, desired butt touching. I'm conceptually I'm into it, but I have to go read 2 chapters for evidence tomorrow, so can we reschedule the butt? Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I realized that now that I've said this, I've jinxed it. So I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and they're gonna say, "We heard the voices from his basement." And I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What did they do?
I don't have a basement. You're good.
Oh well, then you're clear.
Yeah, you're all right.
When I finally decide to, like, take down capitalism or something, I'm gonna leave my screed, my fucking Unabomber note that they'll find afterwards after I do whatever heinous thing I do. It'll be just like, make sure Leon has to publicly apologize for this. That's my whole manifesto, is explain this one, Leon.
Okay. Wonderful.
You're complicit.
I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I've completely dropped friends for less. So
yeah, you have a zero tolerance policy for, like, even minor inconveniences. Could you imagine if we were dirtbags?
You guys are very good boys, and I appreciate your presence in my life.
Yeah, ditto. All right. I just wanted to throw that out there because that's something I've been thinking about today. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I mean, look,
see,
I have.
There we go. There's some uplifting word funk. Love for you guys.
Yeah. I've had like a couple friendships in recent years that I've had to back away from, but never for, like, being a criminal. Just being I've had to back away from them because they just got a little too wrong.
Yeah.
I just couldn't anymore.
You talk about this, like, wrestling community, I guess, like, YouTuber thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's been so much of this recently, and of course it's good that this stuff's finally coming to light, but
the CinemaSins guy.
I thought it was the Honest Trailers guy. Is that the same guy?
I don't know. I can't. Maybe. I'm sorry. Like I said, my brain has just been like. I'm half virus at this point in time, so maybe it's the Honest Trailers guy. Yeah,
I'm almost positive it was the Honest Trailers guy. Let's not throw CinemaSins under the bus unless it's for being CinemaSins.
Being a terrible show. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
you're
let's
probably
be clear
right.
about that.
I will trust. Okay. I will trust you on this.
I mean, someone could Google it during the conversation. The one I was going to say is I'm surprised we didn't get any.
I don't care to, Austin.
That's fair.
Sounds like effort.
Yeah, that's a lot of effort. I'm surprised we didn't get any questions about NeoGAF.
Oh yeah, right. NeoGAF too. Right.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, NeoGAF, it was basically the best place to talk about video games on the internet. Obviously not perfect, no place is, but because they had a strict moderation policy and you needed a business or like EDU account to even get registered there, and there was like a several month vetting process. Like they really took it seriously. It was the least toxic place for video game fans to be together and like talk and be cool, and it was a pretty like socially progressive, chill atmosphere. And then the guy who owns it, Tyler Malka, recently was outed as a harasser. I don't know,
dirtbag.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details. I don't think they're super important for people to understand the story. And also, apparently, the woman didn't mean for this to go wide. Like, it was kind of a private thing. She was, participating in the Me Too hashtag with her, she's not an industry person. This was a personal thing that people latched onto, and it went viral. But yeah, so like, if you go to NeoGAF's Wikipedia page, there used to be, I don't know if it's still there, there's a line on there. It was the #1 source of traffic to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign website, which is just a wild fact. But that kind of tells you, like, as far as centrists go, right? Like, we can discuss their value, but like NeoGAF was a place for decent video games fans, and it's like, and it was owned by a harasser, if not a predator. And I mean, I wish I had like a pithy thing to sum all that up. It's just a garbage shit culture we have, huh? Just all around.
Yeah. One term I prefer. We keep struggling for words to use for as a sort of an umbrella term for like just sort of gross behavior that's not quite the worst one. So, and a term I've heard lately is sex pest. And and that is apparently what they say in England, meaning someone who's like gross but not going so far as to be, say, a rapist. So yeah, there are a lot of sex pests, and I feel like that's a pretty decent term.
There's some shitty things kind of like lying underneath the surface of my gender. And
it's not that far beneath, John.
No, but this is almost every single time one of these things happens, I ask myself the question, like, oh my God, how close am I to this? Like, how is it possible that this grossness is actually like is in me, and there's just like some things in my life that have prevented it from coming out? Like, I don't know. It makes me think horribly about everything.
Yeah, like, full disclosure, like, I was reading the details of what happened at the Tyler Malka thing, and I thought to myself, like, I could have seen, like, 18-year-old me doing some of this. Like, if you haven't read it, like, he literally just, basically propositioned someone who was drunk and then wrote, like, a blog post talking about, like, his sexual prowess. He didn't assault anyone. I want to be clear about that. Like, it was, like, I would say aggressive behavior that I think a lot of American men would think is acceptable.
Yeah, this we are, like, Spencer Krug of Wolf Parade and Moonface and Sunset Rubdown often references fathers in the lyrics that he writes about, like, fathers making us, and it's like, it's naive to not recognize the fact that I am a product of the systems that came before me. And while I will stand up and say that my father was a good man, and he wasn't a sex pest, as far as I know. Good. Like, nobody has outed him, or nobody has said anything, and nobody has. He never had to deal with that. But I'm still a product of that system, and it probably manifests itself in me in ways that I have not yet confronted, that I'm not aware of. Like, we talk about bias, just like natural bias and things like that. When these stories come out, I worry that I'm more of a scumbag than I want to be, and I don't know, because that's not something that you, as a person, you are equipped to be able to answer to yourself, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I think it's like we talked a little bit earlier about like how we're glad that none of us are bad, but the actual like boring truth is that like nobody is good or bad. You actually have to work every day. You have to get up and just be like, I'm gonna actually try, and you never get a break from that. That is life. Is you have to make an effort to be empathetic and to give of yourself and not be garbage. And it is a full-time job, and a lot of people take sick days. So
I said earlier in this episode, after my dad died and mud dumped me, I did some things that I'm not proud of. I didn't do like sexual predator things or anything like that, but I was not equipped, as I said, to play around in anybody else's feelings. And I hurt a lot of people in that period of my life, and I wish I could do it over again, but I can't. So I want to be a better person now, because that's all I can do. Give me just a second. I'm going to go turn the kettle on because I really need a cup of tea.
No, you go ahead.
So I'll be back in just a moment, okay?
Bye, Johnny.
Okay.
I miss you.
All right, while Johnny's gone, Austin.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of phantom time hypothesis?
No, I'm excited about it. I've heard of phantom tax rates. That's a thing I learned in tax class.
Nice. This has nothing to do with that.
Dang.
It is quite possibly the worst conspiracy theory of all time.
All right, I'll Google it. You've twisted my arm.
Okay. All right. We can read the Wikipedia page together. But basically, it's the worst one because it's so easily disproved.
Yeah, those are the best.
Basically, it's a historical conspiracy theory that Roman Emperor Otto III and like some other people, they're pretending it's a different year than we are. So I forget the year that they're claiming it is now.
I love this. Sorry to cut you off real quick, but I'm reading it as you speak, and it says at the end of this long paragraph describing it, this proposal has found no favor among mainstream medievalists. So
yeah,
nope.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, the idea is that they said that a bunch of centuries didn't happen, but the idea is that a bunch of centuries didn't actually happen. But here's the thing: even if they did want to like lie and pull a M. Night Shyamalan on us and pretend it's a different year than it actually is, there are other countries, and unless every other country in the world goes along with this, it wouldn't work. So it's like that's how it doesn't make any sense. It's also like observable through like astronomy and like solar eclipses and stuff, like other ways to test what year it is. But I found it really interesting.
Yeah,
because
the unfortunate thing about conspiracy theories is they're almost always much more attributable to just like mistakes in like record keeping or whatever. Like just like some fool wrote down the wrong number once, and that's your only evidence, and you just ignore the literal like truckloads of other evidence, and it's just like,
yeah, I
don't know.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, I read this dumb article on it, and I was like, that's funny. And then I Googled it, and then the first thing that came up, as all things, was the Wikipedia. But here's the thing. If you Google phantom time hypothesis, and I just want to double check that I have this right, and then Reddit, there's like a whole thing. It's very popular on the Reddit.
I mean, of course there is. There's a subreddit for like literally every single individual thing that's ever happened throughout history. Because humans are self-destructive engines, which are imperfect, and there's no God in heaven watching over us anymore. Yeah. I mean, I used to think it was funny that there was like flat earthers and like whatever, but I've increasingly lost my patience for willful denial. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the any comedy value is vastly overshadowed by the way that these tools are used to minimize like real issues. and to shift the blame from the obvious things and try to construct elaborate conspiracies that just so happen to target the person touting them. I'm just over it in a lot of ways, and I wish I wasn't like jaded, but 2017, y'all, we in it.
I'm back.
Yep.
Hey, Johnny.
I don't think there was an X-Files on this one, which is weird. But then again, this is like a fairly new-ish conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Like this only got big in the 90s during the X-Files.
Oh yeah.
So
what if the X-Files is responsible for like permanently damaging our culture?
I think it is.
Okay. I mean,
but
it did set a really
if it
high
wasn't-
bar for the handsomeness of FBI agents, which we can never really undo.
No. Twin Peaks set the bar for the handsomeness of FBI agents, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Although, on the plus side, although X-Files may have destroyed everything, it also did have a really good comedy vampire episode in the 5th season. So, I don't know. I feel like it's balanced out.
If it wasn't the X-Files, it would have been something else. I mean,
I guess.
obviously.
Eventually. So we're about in question time. Does anybody else have a thing they want to throw in before I start reading these?
I'm really happy. I learned today that Lady Dynamite is getting a 2nd season. That's coming next month, and I'm really happy about that.
I saw
Because
that.
Maria Bamford is fantastic, and I love her.
And there's a new season of Stranger Things in a couple of days. I'm sure that's all we'll talk about next week. Look forward to it.
Probably.
Also, Star Trek Discovery got renewed for season 2 as well.
I really hope they stick with the original idea though, and make it an anthology series.
Oh, they're definitely not.
Like I know, because but this is the thing, is that I don't want a 3-season, 4-season, 5-season Star Trek show about war with the Klingons. Like, I really, really don't want that. I'm a little strained right now as it is. It is honestly, it's getting to the point where the Orville is actually a better classic Star Trek show than Star Trek.
I have mixed feelings about Discovery, but I'll save them. When the season ends, I'll have my full thoughts.
Yeah.
But I'm coming around to it a little bit more.
I'm not suggesting it's a bad show. It's just, it's not the Star Trek I expected.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Okay. Questions?
Yep. Let's start with an easy one. Magic B. Hare, Matthew B. Hare's Halloween name, asks, what's the best vampire movie ever made?
The Hunger.
I like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, those are good too.
think
I
it's
was going to
pretty.
say Blade?
One or two.
I should probably go back and watch them, right? Because I haven't seen them since they came out.
Oh my God, Austin, you're a clickhole video. There's literally a clickhole video that just came out about how people your age are deciding whether or not to buy or rent the Blade trilogy. It is very funny to me. I'm sorry. No, I mean the first two are actually pretty solid, like action movies, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen The Hunger?
No, I'm looking that up now. Actually, apparently it stars David Bowie.
Yeah. Catherine Deneuve, David Bowie, Susan Sarandon in a Tony Scott film.
Yeah.
That's wild. I can't believe I haven't heard of that.
It was super important to like my goth teenage self.
Yeah.
Is it actually good? Because I feel like it would have more
It is
reputation.
actually. It's a very good movie. I mean, like, in a cult kind of way, like it's obviously its appeals are a little
Yeah?
esoteric.
Okay.
Okay. I like Lost Boys.
Oh, Lost Boys.
Throw that out. Throw that out too.
Have you guys seen the Park Chan-wook film Thirst?
No.
It's pretty good.
You talked about that, I think, a couple of months ago or something like that, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I looked up the Wikipedia because I full disclosure, I was just wanted to make sure it wasn't Bong Joon-ho. It is Park Chan-wook. I didn't want to fuck that up. But the description says it is the first.
You're never gonna let me live that down, are you?
The description says it is the first mainstream Korean film to feature full frontal male nudity. So it has that going for it.
Ah, I like dicks.
Okay. Sure. Two great vampire movies that are also like a little bit silly are Fright Night and Shadow of the Vampire. I didn't even think about the horror comedies. They're like
I feel like What We Do in the Shadows should get a little bit of an honorary mention here.
Pretty good. Anybody want to defend Mel Brooks's vampire movie?
No, not really. I will defend John Carpenter's vampires, though. I think I enjoyed that. I have to admit it.
Wow, I thought there were more vampire comedies. I just Googled vampire comedy just to see what pop up, and literally the second one is Dracula Dead and Loving It, which the Mel Brooks one is just very bad. I thought there was going to be more that were good. I'm looking through here, Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp, which I haven't seen.
Just Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It was not great. Dark Shadows was not great.
Dusk Till Dawn, which has its moments.
Yeah, underappreciated, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, it was a good vampire movie that came out recently. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. It was really good.
I mean, kind of spoilers for the premise, but yeah.
It's on the poster.
Oh, is it? Like, okay, I have not seen the poster.
Let the Right One In as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is and
you know
like the original like Scandinavian, not the American.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is literally a YouTube channel called Vampire Reviews that talks about almost all of the movies we have mentioned, but like in greater depth if you are interested.
I would be worried about doing something with that narrow of a focus because eventually you'd think you'd run out, but if it supports someone's career and they're making it work, like all the power to them. Cool.
It's been going on for years.
Wow. Also, did you guys ever see the movie Daybreakers?
Yeah.
I have not.
There was something in there that I liked that didn't quite crystallize.
Yeah, I think it was a little undercooked, but I also think it had a lot of potential. It's Willem Dafoe. He's not the lead, but he's the most memorable part about it, and it's like it almost felt like a response to Twilight. It came out in 2009, so it's like trying to make vampires cool again, and I feel like that angle they took on it might have hamstrung it somewhat and kind of taken away from its cooler elements. It had like a lot of world building because it's almost science fiction. Ethan Hawke was the lead in that. Anyway,
can we also just say that If I Am Legend had a better ending,
yeah,
it would be in this list.
Okay.
Yeah, the original, which they did film. I'm trying to remember. Did they make a sequel to 30 Days of Night? Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
And you know what? You're right. I talked about this like a couple of months ago. How underappreciated a movie that is. It's a great vampire flick.
Love it. I can't believe how long that question lasted. We had a lot to say all of a sudden.
It's almost like we could make a whole YouTube channel out of it.
Almost. Okay. So These Long Wars asks, I think this is for me. It says, what do you and Johnny think of the Chapo Trap House podcast? Have you ever listened to Chapo, Johnny?
I have not, no.
Okay, so for those who don't know, I mean, I haven't really either. I kind of dipped in. Here's the thing. For those who don't know, Chapo is like the mainstream socialist, like leftist podcast. They're like, I'm trying to think of like an equivalent, but like, you know how Fox is to conservatives? Like leftists, of course, they don't watch cable TV. They listen to podcasts because we're cool and young and hip. And Chapo is our Fox, I guess. Like, and I mean that both in the sense that it's very influential. I think they make $30,000 a month on Patreon. But it's also bro-y. Is like the word that people say about it is like, it's like very like bro. And that doesn't appeal to me. And it also is just three white guys podcast, which is what we are. I realize
that sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it's three white male straight socialists, and it's like I do that already. So I feel like I fill that niche for myself. I don't know. I wish I had something more intelligent to say, but it is also like super. It's like one of the most listened to podcasts. Like I follow.
You know how when your favorite musicians get interviewed, and they're like, "Oh, what's your favorite music?" And you're listening to this guy who plays acoustic guitar and writes like heart-rending songs, and he's like, "I really love Biggie."
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. It's that we do our thing, but it's not like we're not chasing Chapo.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I definitely could see someone saying that they're like our competitors, like we're in the same niche. Obviously, like 1/100th of the size, but it's not even a thing I'm interested in pursuing. I don't want to be Chapo. Like I don't like their reputation is one of like negativity, like taking like foxes, like taking down the other side. It's not about like I don't know. It's
not promotional of its own values. It's detractory of other values.
I'm not confident enough to make sweeping generalizations. I follow a lot of leftists who talk about it like they wish it was not the way it is all I'll say. And like right. It's gained a reputation from the other side, as it were. Like I saw someone accuse Chelsea Manning on Twitter of like quote unquote going full Chapo. Like I don't know. It's becoming like a thing to like accuse leftists of being like, you know how like we talk about the Koch brothers, like I guess our version is like George Soros and Chapo Trap House.
Yeah.
Is like we're being brainwashed by them. I don't know. I probably should listen to more before I make those kind of generalizations. But the question I think is something that would naturally come up because it seems like something we should be into, and none of us have listened or do listen to it.
Oops.
Oh my gosh, got a lot of questions. Here's a wrestling one that I actually do know something about. It's a little dark, but we'll see if I'll try to participate in this one. Rick asks, do you think that Chris Benoit should be in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Parentheses, wrestling! I know this
Nope.
guy. He murdered his family.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yep.
Do you have any other insight to add to this? Because I have a thought about something similar. I'm going to loop it into football, but if you want to go ahead,
Okay.
Leon.
I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, so no, I don't. Even posthumously. So
Well, you wouldn't be
I have like literally no funny things to say about it. So
Yeah.
like that, like hard pass.
All right. I just wanted to bring it up because one of the things that happens in sports a lot is people in very traumatic positions get brain damage and then do wildly out of character things. The thing I always come back to is Junior Seau, the football player, who killed himself because he had basically lost control of his mental faculties from repeated brain injuries. And my understanding is that's what medical science believe happened to Chris Benoit. And it's something we don't take seriously as a culture. All right, now, basically the prevailing attitude is that football players should suck it up and stop whining, even though there's ample evidence.
I have no fucking patience for that attitude.
As someone who has suffered a life-altering sports injury, perhaps I am biased, but I looked at this question and I thought it's an important thing for people who value my opinion to know. I think we should take this shit seriously, and I don't think walk it off, rub some dirt in it is acceptable, and I think these multi-billion-dollar industries should fucking fund some research and
take some fucking responsibility for the shit they put these people through.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to minimize the terrible, evil thing that Chris Benoit did, but I also think he was probably failed by a system. And just like a bunch of football players, it's only going to get worse as that game gets more vicious, as the bar keeps getting raised and raised for the people turning themselves into human battering rams.
We can both condemn the actions of the personal, and also attack the system for not taking care of the people that it basically exploits.
Yeah. But yeah, so without getting too deep into it though, like there's a certain point where your brain has been altered so much by these kind of repetitive traumas that you are essentially aren't the same person anymore. I mean, your brain, we've talked about the mind body stuff before. I'm not trying to get deep into the Descartes, as it were, but like there is a level of complicity or like I don't feel like the people at the end of the day who should be held responsible have been held responsible for tragedies like this. Like, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say is like the WWE or whatever should be legally responsible for that terrible thing that happened, but I think it's something we need to take seriously. Or
I can certainly speak to that aspect of it. Like immediately afterwards, in the aftermath of that, the manner in which what wrestlers are allowed to do in WWE as it relates to things related to the head and related to their wellness policy completely changed. And it didn't change overnight. It just like incrementally changed in like step by step over the next a few years. And now it's hard to get cleared to wrestle. It's much harder to get cleared to just wrestle in WWE.
I mean, that's good. I'm very glad to hear that this had a tangible effect on their policies. Obviously, I also think they should pay several $1 million in fixing the problem, but you can't have everything you want in this life.
Yeah. But yeah, things are remarkably different in a lot of ways following that. I don't know anything about legitimate sports, so I have no idea.
Legitimate sports. At the end of the day,
I have no idea about
bludgeoning your brain. It's legitimate. Like if the outcome is scripted, does not change the fact that your brain bleeds.
No, fair enough. But what I mean is like I know that concussions are also an issue in football. I have no idea if they are also taking steps to. Or not.
They have been incredibly resistant to steps. There's been very minor things, like they've done basically like jumping through hoops, going through the motions of adding some safeguards and like tests you're supposed to take. But if you're a big money player, you'll pass. Wink, wink. There have been like obviously some of it is just inevitable in that. There's a lot of money on the line and people want to be the best, and the harder you hit, like it's just kind of an arms race. Like the way the game was played in like the 1920s with the floppy leather hats bears no resemblance to these basically like super mutant Captain America motherfuckers choke slamming each other with the power of an atom bomb out there. It's just the math on it, right? Like mass times velocity is just magnitudes different, and the human body was just not made for it. The actual thing, if anybody's curious, want to look it up more, because we're not going to linger, but it's called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE is the thing, and there's a picture of the brain when it has this on Wikipedia. This is not up for debate. These things damage who you are at a core level. When you play contact sports, your sense of self is diminished, and like obviously that doesn't excuse evil acts that result, but I feel like people should know when they want to talk about like sports people and like, oh, they're a bunch of whiners, and just stand for the national anthem. Fuck you. Just done with it. Okay. Also, they don't get paid too much. The owners make 10 fucking million times more, and they sit in a booth and watch. Fuck them. Fuck them. If anything, the players should get paid more, because they're generating that revenue and putting their body on the line to do so. Anyway, hey, you guys want to talk about football?
Sure.
No.
Oh, dang.
I feel like you're like one sentence away from saying control the means of production, Austin.
I always am.
Anyway, yeah.
That's just my constant state of being.
No, that's fine. You want to do a next question?
Yeah, I gotta look up. I was deep in the Google hole, and
that's okay.
Gotta get back on these questions. Here's a softball, Johnny. Cyretha's Halloween name. Ask Johnny, what sandwich goes best with soup? Give us a sandwich.
It really depends.
Wouldn't it also depend on the soup?
Yeah.
If it's like tomato based or kind of tart, I would say go with something like a grilled cheese. Absolutely. If it's a creamy sandwich like a chowder, I would probably pair something a little racier with it, like a Cuban.
I'm sorry, did you just describe a sandwich as racy?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, so like a Cuban sandwich, or even like Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Oh God.
I like the idea that there's going to be a 10-minute block of silence while he tries to remember the name of the sandwich.
I
That's
can't.
that good
I
shit.
can't.
Come at us, Chapo.
I
Fuck
can't
with this.
fucking believe that I've forgotten the name of this goddamn sandwich.
Oh.
Ah, fuck. Oh my God. Okay, if it's a French onion, then do a beef dip. Absolutely. Why can't I remember the name of this fucking sandwich? Oh God.
Do you want to take a second to Google around while I ask another one?
I'm Googling around. Go on.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to say real
Yeah.
quick that for dinner tonight, I had a plain cheese sandwich and a bowl of pumpkin spice Cheerios, and that is how I paired that.
That was an incredibly white sentence.
Look, I didn't eat until 8 at night when I walked into the door for reasons I don't need to get into, and I didn't want to cook anything. I was just, okay, here are some things that I can put into my mouth hole really quickly, and then I did it.
Nice. Quick one from Jessica Sims, who asks, will you watch Dragons in Places, which is the name of the Game Grumps D&D podcast? They
Ruben!
literally started today.
It's the Reuben sandwich.
I had one a long time ago, and it was good.
That's a
as I
very good
recall.
sandwich.
Yeah. Although you can never go wrong with a good BLT.
You could try.
that as well. Like BLTs they will pair well with anything, and I'm a huge fan of banh mi. So
Oh yeah, I remember we discussed that for a while one episode. We went to a whole banh mi rabbit hole.
Yeah. So like pho, if you're having pho, then, and I know it's not pronounced like that. It's just that sort of the colloquial recognition that we all have. Yeah, pork banh mi. But yeah, chowder and Reuben. So tomato soup and grilled cheese, and you could just like throw a BLT there anywhere.
The question about the Game Grumps D&D thing is I do listen to multiple Dungeons & Dragons, or I guess it's just role-playing podcasts, and I have no problem with adding another. Like, it's important to know the medium you're working in. I checked it out today, and I saw that Dan Avedon is not part of it, and he's my favorite part of Game Grumps, and I saw that Ross is, and I'm not trying to put a guy on blast. I don't know him personally. I find him kind of difficult. For those who don't know, his sense of his humor is making other people angry and uncomfortable, and I can't enjoy it. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be listening to the Game Grumps play D&D, but I enjoy their content, and I enjoy that art form. And if anybody isn't aware that it exists, now you are. I'm sure you will find some enjoyment in it if you like those things. You guys don't watch Let's Plays, do you?
Nah.
No.
Yeah. Someday I will also achieve adulthood.
One of these days, Austin, when you get more time on your hands, you still owe me a review, you know.
Oh God, we have so much going on in our lives. Here's what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have it written on my tombstone, and then we'll have that.
Yep. Oh yeah. Did not play Resident Evil 6 with Johnny like he promised.
It's bad. I don't know if that's the whole thing, Johnny. It's very, very, very bad. All right, I'm looking for a new question. What do we got? We got a couple minutes. Got video game stuff. Oh, here's a nice one. Zombie Marmot, which is random web person's Halloween name, asks, "What's the thing you most like about your fellow hosts?"
Oh.
And then in parentheses, now kiss.
Okay. I already said it earlier.
Just that we haven't fucking embarrassed you? Cool.
That you're like decent people and that you're not gross and I can actually like be friends with you, because I've tried to be friends with like men in the past. It didn't go well. They're most of them are bad. I'm sorry. Like, if I could just like be a jerk about this for a second, they're mostly bad. But you guys are fine, and that's yeah. I appreciate. I mean, I could go into like greater detail, but I appreciate that you're both people who have like consciences, and that's like important. That sounds kind of like duh, but like, you know,
I like Leon's Yelp review of us is, you guys are all right. Mostly fine.
3.5 stars.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many people you encounter in your life who you just suspect don't, though. So that's kind of that's a really important thing for me, as it turns out. So that is it. I like both of. I like your morals. So that's like the least sexy thing you could say to someone.
But I think my favorite thing about Leon is that he knows what's important to him, and he always like keeps that in mind. Like I sometimes can feel like I'm flexible on issues, and that like is. I don't want to say like that I can be bullied into immoral positions, but like I like that Leon's like there's right and there's wrong, and that's what it is. And I think that can obviously be weaponized for bad, but
that's literally a topic in my next episode
Nice.
about how it can be weaponized for bad.
All right. Yeah, but I think you found a good place, at least a healthy-ish place that I sometimes envy.
Okay.
And also, I just like that Johnny is so passionate about a lot of creative, cool stuff. Like, it's just, you got to find things in life you enjoy, and he's just like food and, you know, film and all that kind of stuff. That's nice.
Aww.
It just makes me happy to see you getting happy about stuff, you know?
All right. I don't know if our podcasts adequately reflect how supportive Leon and Austin are, because I mean we've talked about Word Funk as just being an excuse to get together and just have the three of us like bullshit and talk and do our thing together, but it doesn't completely encapsulate the friendship that we have, and it's no secret that I have had a horrible year. That 2017 has not been very kind to me. And both Leon and Austin have been tremendously supportive. So yeah, that's super important to me. I mean, you know, like longtime listeners know that I've struggled with depression and a cavalcade of other impressive things. But yeah, they're both remarkably steadfast in their support of me, and that is invaluable. They are excellent friends, and I would be lucky to meet another person of their caliber even just one more time in my life.
Also, I really like Johnny's gams.
I do have wonderful legs.
I like how when Johnny gets really serious, I can always count on Austin to like sort of like get uncomfortable enough to like say something funny to break the tension.
I don't know if it's uncomfortableness. I literally just think that's the correct comedic instinct for the art form that we are undertaking. But
boners.
Yeah. The point is, I like another thing I like about our friendship is that I've known you two so long that I knew that was about to happen. Like as soon as Johnny got quiet after he reached his like emotional end to his speech, I knew Austin was going to say something of that kind, and I was just kind of waiting for it, and I enjoyed it. It was fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
Regardless of the actual quality of the show, I do want to say there is a right and correct and good way to podcast, and we know what it is. We just often choose not to do it.
I mean, don't think that for a second it hasn't occurred to us that we would, like, research topics beforehand. I'd be like, oh, gee, what's this week's show going to be about? Because, like, we thought about doing that at, like, the very first episode, and it was a very conscious decision to just go, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't sound fun at all. I mean, I did look up phantom time hypothesis before we did the episode, but really, I didn't get too deep into it. I really just wanted to hear your reaction.
Yeah, I feel like you come
more than
every week,
anything.
Leon, with, like, a thing where you're like, there's a mad pooper or something, and it's like it's a minute and a half of content at most, which is fine.
Yeah,
we somehow fill an hour and a half every week.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Okay.
Total
All right.
nonsense.
All right. Anything you guys want to say before we go?
Real
No,
quick.
you go ahead.
I am going to go. You can't stop me. I'm bigger than you. I'll fight you.
Okay.
I had to bring
where
us
that came
to a
from.
different energy. The Twitter is Marquis of Darkness. I guess this is the Halloween name of Xenochrist. Asks, myself and another Dice Funk fan are thinking about starting our own D&D podcast. Any tips for us? This is kind of a self-serving thing I wanted to answer, but you would be absolutely, I think, floored by how much work it is.
Yeah.
It seems like, oh, you just get on a call and you talk for an hour and a half like this. This show is designed to be like this because it's no stress. And something that has become very clear doing my other show is that it is basically a full-time job, both in the preparation and the editing and just the constantly having to be thinking about it and having to deliver satisfying storylines for 4 other people.
The writing alone stressed me right the fuck out.
I know, Johnny, like, we have different styles, but the stress comes in at different times. Like, you front load the stress with the writing. I have to back load the stress by, like, oh, I've established all these things. How do I pull them together in a way that makes sense and is nice for the audience? And it's like, if you want to just fuck around with your friends at a table or, like, in a Discord or something, listen, that sounds like a lot of fun. I highly recommend that. If you want to put it out for other people to enjoy, you have to realize, like, this is a burgeoning market that a lot of people are in. Like I literally just said, like, Game Grumps just launched a thing. You're competing in a, like, Critical Role market. Like, it's a big thing.
The Adventure
and, like,
Zone.
Yeah, you have, if you're gonna put the work in, you basically have to realize, like, you're taking on a profession at a certain point.
There are weird concessions that you have to make too, because you've got to realize that you're not playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, you're making a show.
It's not about you. That's something that's actually, I think, taken a while for everyone involved to even learn. Is like, oh, I'm really interested in this one thing. If it's like, there's 4 other people here, what do they get out of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to totally turn your brain around about the way people usually play these games.
Yeah, it's very, very different. I say this, like, when we started Dice Funk, I was probably the most experienced Dungeons and Dragons player of the original cast, and it's not the same. It cannot be the same. So, you're making a whole lot of concessions on how you play the game, how the game expresses itself. It's very different.
Which is why, like, the second to last arc of the Adventure Zone, they literally just dropped the D&D rules for, like, 10 hours or something.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, we can't. Like, this literally won't be good. It will be bad to listen to if we play this as D&D. And so it's... Don't
not do it.
Yeah.
Because you're...
these are things I wish someone would have told me. Was like, you're going to spend 4 or 5 hours on every Friday and 4 or 5 hours every Saturday editing both the episode and then also, like, the last time on the episode, and you got to get, permission for title card artists, and then you got to find the right music, and then I got to set up, like, all the pages on all my different platforms. I got to write a good description. Like, it's a fucking ordeal. It's not just like you sit down and you just talk about butts for an hour and then the show makes itself. It's a whole deal.
I love that we just talk about butts for an hour.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
It's important to have the butt outlet.
I like butts.
My advice for playing D&D on a podcast is to make a really annoying character and just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think you brought something to the show, Leon. Like, I loved that you basically, your job was to troll me. And I think I still get comments of people being like, are like you and Leon not friends anymore or something? Because you left the show. There was a post someone showed me of someone's basically that it was a conspiracy that I forced you off of season 3, even though you you quit.
No, No, I very much quit.
Yeah.
Very abruptly.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not Austin's fault. I decided for my own reasons to leave.
And I think it's actually worked out pretty well for everybody. Like, you clearly weren't taking, you weren't getting anything from it anymore. And we brought Laura Kate Dale on, and she's been an absolute joy. I think the show is better for it. And while I love what you brought to the game, I also thought, the show has kind of gone in a different direction. It's everything has worked out great, but you have to put that work in, and you have to have the right expectations.
I think Leon just missed me.
Yeah, definitely. I just think Leon, he's been very open about, he doesn't really love improv, and he doesn't.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just
I hate it. I like writing my jokes ahead of time and hoping that an instance will come about in which I can use it, and then it doesn't.
And learning the rules is more work than it was worth and everything.
Oh, Jesus Christ. There's so many numbers.
Yeah.
I just want to punch, guys.
Right? You have to learn 1 through 20.
I really hope someone cuts this 30 seconds out of this episode, and then at any time the concept, the topic of Leon leaving comes up, we can just link to it or something, because it's not only is there no bad blood, honestly, it was a relief for everybody. So, that's that thing.
We are all still friends. If that, I don't know, love in.
Do they just not listen to Word Funk?
All right, well, let's stop recording, and then it's all right, fuck you guys. Bye.
Do they? I guess not all the Dice Funk people listen to Word Funk, because the evidence that we're all still friends is pretty much that we do this every week. Oh well.
Yeah.
Listen to our show too. They're not listening. Okay. So, anything you guys want to say before we go?
Have you guys seen the trailer for Jean-Claude Van Damme's new show?
No.
No, what is that?
He's got a show called Jean-Claude Van Johnson that Amazon is doing, where
is it about Johnson?
He plays himself, but Jean-Claude Van Damme is a pseudonym because he's actually a secret agent who operates under the name Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And after years of being out, he's I'm back in the game. So he gets this job basically working on a martial arts movie in Central South America or something like that to track down a drug ring. It looks hilarious.
Okay.
It's actually a comedy. So yeah, check it out. Check the trailer out for Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
I might have to.
It looks tremendous.
Okay.
Jeff Sessions can still eat my asshole.